Hey, welcome, Mr. Smith.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're so happy to see you. We get to see you in passing about probably 3 or 4 times a month here and there around the county. So nice to finally pin you down and be able to stick it to you.
With a pin, I hope.
That will be nice.
Yeah, I guess you don't want me to ask you the Herb Gura questions, right?
Ask me any question you like.
Folks, as you know, we try to keep our interviews in a positive, lighthearted manner, even though some of the subjects are very serious. But we'd like to make sure we do this in the right manner
Well, don't start
with
your
proper
questions
respect.
until we give Mr. Smith a chance to do his
my disclosure.
biographical information. Thank you.
All right, it's all yours, sir.
Okay, well, of course, my name is Jeff Smith. I've been a county supervisor. I'm in my 16th year, which is a long time. I was on the city council 2 years before that. I have probably attended a couple of hundred city council meetings even before I decided to run for city council. And I was around the city council meeting so much, the city administrator asked me at that point, why aren't you running for city council? You're here all the time anyway. And I told him, at first, that would never happen. I had no aspirations to get into politics, but it ended up changing because I thought I could make a difference. And I think I have. I'm just had my 60th birthday, so I'm just a hair over the hill.
We're the same age. Oh my goodness! I turn in November.
Let me tell you. Let me interrupt you. You look awesome for age 60. Seriously,
good,
I thought you were in your.
Well, everybody else thinks I'm 65.
Oh boy.
Well, they're not telling you the truth.
Anyway. So I moved to Lake County about 38 years ago. My son was 3, and my daughter was just about 8 months old. I thought I really wanted to come up here and raise my kids in this environment, and was happy that I did. My kids both graduated from high school, Lower Lake High School. I raised a couple of stepchildren at the same time too, and they're doing well also. I've got 3 grandkids, and I started kind of young, and my granddaughter just turned 18 about 6 months ago. Graduated from high school. So, and then my grandson's 16, and my granddaughter is 11, the youngest one. And they're all my daughter's kids. My son married pretty much right out of high school, and things didn't work out, and he's been single ever since, but he's helped raise the grandkids. They both live in Sparks. So they're too far away as far as I'm concerned, and that's one thing that I've always strived for, to see if we can do stuff to help keep our kids here in the county.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with that.
I really miss that. So anyway, I've been real busy on the board. I've tried to make sure that the city of Clear Lake gets their fair share while I've been on the board, and I think I've accomplished that, although I'm hearing quite the contrary from my opponents, but I've got figures to back it up, so maybe we'll get into that down the road a little bit. Right. But it's been a real experience as far as I'm concerned on the board. We've always worked well together, no matter who's been on the board all the way through. We have our disagreements, but we leave the room coming back thinking, okay, we won or lost that one, let's move on to the next and make Lake County a better place to live. We've experienced the cleanest air in the state and nationally, so that's a real plus. And we've made some big strides in certain projects we've been involved in. The purchase of Mount Konocti was being controversial because everybody thought we used road money or some other kind of money that could have been used elsewhere, where in fact we pretty much used monies that could only be used for that, or things in that area. And probably the last huge thing we did, as far as I'm concerned, is the purchase of the old Lucerne Hotel, or the Castle, and was able to attract Marymount College there. To me, that was huge to help keep our kids here in the county, and where they can, get an education right there. Go to junior colleges. We have 2 to choose from, and then ongoing, and will be ongoing for some time, is the Middle Creek Marsh Restoration Project, which is huge for the water quality of Clear Lake. So, that's something we've spent about $12 million on purchases of property to try to get people out of harm's way, and something we're going to have to spend a lot more money on to get it through, but it's something that I want to stick around to push and see if we can get it completed, hopefully in my next term of office.
Cool.
Or at least get it to a point where we're flooding the levees to help filter the lake.
Right. Well, you've already answered half my question, so have a nice day.
I can keep on going and answer them all, probably.
No, that's all right. Why don't we, and because of time purposes, we could try to I'll try to keep my questions short and brief, and if you could get your answers as brief as possible.
Okay.
That way we can get as much in, plus get the callers coming in. So,
Okay.
I think you've already answered it, but I'm going to ask you anyway, is you've been in, as you just said, 16 years as a supervisor. What are the best accomplishments you've achieved during that term, especially over the last, say, 4 to 8 years?
Well, the last 4 to 8 years has been really for my district is the sewer system bypass that we've done, where in the past we know that when we had high water levels in the lake, or we had high rainfall, we had so much infiltration into our sewer system that we actually had to hire pumper trucks to go to certain manholes and pump them out so we didn't have spills. We still had a few spills, when we had huge amounts of rain overnight. We had a couple of spills. Those have been like 4 years ago now. We did a major sealing project that was, I think, $1.3 million, I believe. And then, of course, our last major pipeline improvement that went from right at the bridge at Cache Creek all the way to the sewer treatment plant, with a tie-in from the plant that's at Safeway over to that. That was a $5 million project. So that was huge for the city, because we were at a hookup moratorium where we couldn't hook up to sewer. So if any new businesses wanted to come in or new homes wanted to be built, unless they were in certain areas that weren't affected by that, they couldn't be built. So that was lifted right after the pump station, went into effect. Actually, it was lifted a little bit before that. So we even had to do a special deal for Carl's Jr. to even open. We had to really look and analyze and let them open, because we didn't think they'd have that much of an impact on the system. Right. So that's one of them. I mentioned, the hotel, I think,
right,
was in the other one, but Canocti, the purchase of Mount Canocti, that for visitors and for the public, I don't know about you guys, but every day I look at Mount Canocti.
No, that was a good move.
It's there, and it's beautiful, and it's in perpetuity. It's something that, hopefully my grandchildren's grandchildren will be able to enjoy it and see it.
As long as it doesn't explode on us, yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
That's probably going to be the most likely thing to happen.
And then, lake issues and wrapping our arms around the lake issues. I've spent hundreds of hours in the lake myself personally, going out and either putting up boom material or clearing algae. And
I've seen you on the airboats.
yeah. So, it got to the point where it was, I'd get off from a board meeting or whatever, I'd go down to the public works yard, pick up the airboat, go out and spend the whole afternoon on the lake, and it went that way for a number of summers. And I think, I made a difference.
Right.
Some of the really impacted areas, we were able to put the boom around it and haul it out, and I know I'm going on, and you're...
No, you're good.
Peter, so.
You still actually have 5 minutes left in your bio section, so you're good.
Wow.
Oh, boy, aren't you pleasant. I've been up here almost 2 years now, and finally getting to know people, and people kind of recognize my face, unfortunately, as I walk around and get to talk to people. And one of the biggest... not one of the biggest, but one of the things I hear all the time from people, be it in your district or other districts, is that why is it that District 5 seems to appear to get all of the improvements and all the money allocated to it for it, and then all the other areas kind of get ignored, specifically the Clear Lake area? That seems to be a common comment that I hear all the time. And obviously, from a publicity or from a media point of view, we hear about everything that's being done in District 5. We hear very, very little about District 2.
Well, the only thing that sticks out that I can remember that's happening, a couple of things, I guess, happening in District 5 is the skate park.
Right.
That's a big deal. But there are also funds that are county funds. And, to really explain this, I've got to back up a little bit. Okay, when the city was incorporated, there was funding mechanisms set up where the city received a certain amount of the sales tax dollars. actually all their sales tax dollars that they would get within the city limits, and property tax dollars. I've got a chart, and I didn't even think about bringing that one, but within the city limits, and this is real rough percentages, but within the city limits, the city gets approximately 11% of the property tax. The county gets approximately 11% of the property tax. Within the county boundaries, the county gets 22%.
Obviously.
Okay? So a lot of people don't understand that. And people go, well, why does the city not get all of their property tax? Well, we have overarching services that we supply. The biggest ones are jail, DA's office, public defender's office, social services, those type of things. We're funding out of our 11%. The city budget, I believe, is $4 million, somewhere in that area.
Yes.
Our budget for the county this year is $188 million. Okay, if you take out, and actually just picked this up this morning because I requested it.
Nice.
Out of the $188 million, $83 million is for county use purposes only, and that'd be parks, sheriff's patrol, community development, because the city has their own community development department, animal control, because now they're using SPCA for their animal control. Actually, animal control is just over $1 million. If
Wow.
you can,
Really?
it's unbelievable.
And if people would just fix their animals, they wouldn't need animal
No
control.
kidding. And roads is $22 million. And when road money comes in, and that's all roads and staff and everything
Right.
else, but when that money comes in, it can only be used within the county boundaries. It can't
Correct.
overspill.
You can't go into the city areas. Right.
So the total of all this, and there's some special districts and stuff that are outside the area that's all in the budget. That's $16 million worth of stuff that's outside. That doesn't include the special districts that's within the city boundaries that, of course, we're all paying for anyway. So out of the $188 million, there's $83 million that can only be used within the county, which leaves about $104 million and some change left to go into all 5 districts. So when you take that and divide it by 20%, you're looking at a total of about $25.2 million that actually goes into the city of Clear Lake. And I have a lot more detailed breakdown. It's amazing that, for an example, Section 8 housing. We get 60% of the money for Section 8 housing within the boundaries of the city of Clear Lake.
So what you're saying is that a lot of the bulk of the money that's allocated to District 2 is being spent on Section 8 housing?
No.
That's only a piece of it.
Yeah, that's
That's
just
only about
one example.
$900,000 a year.
Okay.
Just about $1 million a year in Section 8 housing, which is 60%. So the other districts really should be getting, a percentage of that too, but we're getting 60% of it, which is a good thing.
Because we
we're
have the
filling that
most
need.
I
public
understand.
housing.
That's right. Yeah, we're filling that need.
Right.
Social services, the cases of social services within the boundaries. Okay, the city of Clear Lake actually has 23.5% of the population.
Right.
My district, isn't even the whole city. Jim has a little piece of it. So I have 20% of that. He has 3.5% of the population. We have 36% of the social services cases within the city of Clear Lake. So that's a huge chunk. A third of their budget then goes there. So out of the $25 million that we should be getting, I've heard we're not getting our fair share.
Right.
On those type of things, if you really want to break it down and look at and when I get the numbers down, I'll have the percentage. But it's between 30 and 35% is what we're getting within the city of Clear Lake of county monies that are being paid. So for people to say that we aren't getting our fair share, I've always made sure we're getting our fair share and then some.
Right.
And what I've always put on my flyers is that I brought over $1 million into the city of Clear Lake. This is special funding dollars. This isn't the everyday dollars we're going to get out of the regular budget. This is special funding monies from one-time monies and stuff like that. Senior Center, between Ed Roby and I in years past, they used to get about $4,000 for each senior center. We actually did a formula to where they got a percentage by the number of meals they serve, which is the only fair way to do it.
Right, because you
So
know the
now-
population in
yeah.
each spot.
So now the Highland Senior Center gets more than any other senior center because they deserve it. And it's, I'd have to put that figure together, but it's probably around $200,000 to $250,000 in my term in office that we've been able to give the Highland Senior Center, plus $30,000 to $40,000 for kitchen equipment on special requests and stuff. Youth programs, $40,000 to $50,000, including $10,000 that went to the Austin's Park playground equipment. So, and it's like people don't know that. I'm not one that I'm going to go out and brag about myself.
Right.
You know, I have, you know, I'll turn down a publicity shot just because to me that's not what it's about. It's about doing my job, and I've always used this: action speaks louder than words. And you know,
All right. Okay, we'll move on. Good answer, though. No, I
Yeah.
understand, because, you know, there is a perception that other districts get a lot more money than
Yeah.
the Clear Lake area. And what you just explained makes sense to me, because a lot of the money actually goes into the social services
social
aspect
services
of what's
part,
necessary.
right.
And unfortunately, Clear Lake has a big percentage of that.
we have a huge need there.
Right.
Peter, do you want to ask questions and take phone calls at the same
We
time?
can do that.
I think we need to, because we only have a
I
half
know,
hour.
I know. So we have
If anyone, well, we did, but I didn't answer.
Well, I'm
so
going to, this is a kind of a,
we can open the phone lines.
this may be an unfair question, so I want to let you know that up in advance. And if you
Okay.
don't want to respond, I can understand too. And I don't want to pick on any one supervisor on the board, but I'm going to. And only because of what I consider a proper professional approach to the position. And since I've been here, I've repeatedly heard Mr. Brown make some very derogatory comments towards the citizens of this county because they disagree with his own views or his own agenda. I'm not asking you to comment your opinion on that. What I'm asking is, do you feel his comments, be it derogatory or otherwise, have an impact on you personally, as your reputation as a board of supervisor, and do you condone his actions, the way he responds to the public?
All of us are different. All of us handle, I guess, stress and questions and reactions completely differently. I would not answer questions like that personally. You know, it's just not in my nature. I try to be even keel, right down the middle type of person, look at everybody's views, and try not to pass judgment. You know, I like Rob. You know, what I actually like all the supervisors and have everybody I've worked with. We've always gotten along great. And none of us can control what each other says or does or anything else.
But behind the scenes, do you say, "Hey, dude, you shouldn't have said that"? This, you know,
There's comments made about that where, you know, even things that I've said that weren't anything that's going to stick out in somebody's mind, but after the fact I go, oh man, that didn't come out right.
We've heard a few things.
What the heck? You know,
But when you hear people say things like the Arizona carpetbaggers, specifically talking about us, because that's his favorite term for us, on the supervisor's thing, we haven't said one word to that gentleman. He has no idea what our involvement is in anything in Lake County, except for his own assumptions.
I don't even.
And then to have another supervisor, I don't know, some people say it was the same one, say idiot point one in referencing KPFZ. Those kind of things are just inappropriate and not acceptable. I'm sorry. I just think somebody needs to hammer down on these people and say, this is not a good way to
Yeah.
behave. You have a code of conduct, but nobody's folling it.
And it's the thing about it is it is countywide. We just had a discussion about that.
Oh, my.
You know, people the way things, well, coming from Clear Lake, lived there 38 years. And friends that are professionals, you know, go to different parts of the lake and they hear, you're from Clear Lake? How
so
can you
sad.
take it down?
You don't understand.
I know.
I know you do understand.
I do understand completely.
I mean, Yeah.
So anyway, that stuff happens, and the thing about it is, I just let it roll off, and I try to correct people, and
Yeah, it's
you know,
just sad, though.
Yeah, it
you
is.
know.
It really is.
We
We're
all
all here to
are
work
supposed
together.
to be living together and
That's
working
it.
together. And can you imagine what we could accomplish if we put our differences aside and put all our power together?
Exactly.
I mean,
Right.
really, that's where we should be going.
Yep.
So let me jump in with a quick question. Jerry Spittler is also running for the same seat, and she has had some issue with the way that the city of Clear Lake was formed originally, and the whole street structure, and how some streets are private and some streets are city owned, and some maybe should have been kept within the county because it wasn't brought into the city, and there's a lot of black hole areas there regarding the roads and who's responsible for them. Do you feel like the county has a responsibility for those people who are stuck in a neighborhood where the city can't take responsibility for the roads, or what do you think the solution is for that?
Well, the solution should have been taken care of back when the city was incorporated. Because
right, but it wasn't.
The county didn't force the city to take the city.
Right.
It was done by a group of citizens, and I can tell you some of them you can contact. Ed Roby, Dave Hughes, Tom Hewlett.
Yep.
Those were the original city council members.
Same
and
people looking for the road taxes too
well,
now.
the thing about it is that's I got to be honest with you, that's the only way, absolutely the only way that the city's going to get things done.
But they're still not going to address those private roads.
They can't.
No.
It'd be
So
illegal.
who
It'd be a
can?
gift of public funds.
Is it fair to those citizens who purchased these homes not understanding that they were in a black hole situation? Who can take responsibility?
They have to take responsibility themselves because of the fact, that's just the way it is. It's a sad situation. But the thing about it is, when you purchase property, you're supposed to do your due diligence too, or you're supposed to be informed on stuff. So it's a really tough deal.
It's
First
a
of all,
catch-22
I don't know
in
what
all
it is.
ways. Yeah.
The realtors involved should have had, and the seller of the home should have had full disclosure.
And I heard Mr. Hughes personally say that he does not disclose
Right.
anything in the real estate
To me,
sales
that's
in
an
Clear
E&O
Lake.
problem.
And that's not good.
Well, I don't know where that law goes because I'm not a realtor. I've got to say, I can't think of any realtor that I think is underhanded or anything else. I think they're doing everything by the book.
Yeah, we're not
And maybe-
saying that, but
and maybe
just-
the book.
It would be nice if
Maybe
they
the
were a
book
little
needs to
more
be changed.
Well,
open.
I think so, because in
Yeah.
Arizona, you have to disclose everything in the contract.
Yeah, there's a lot of
And
stuff
there
here
may
that
even be
doesn't
something
get
in there
through.
that discloses it, but it's done in
Well,
such a way.
exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is even my neighborhood years ago, mine's a city street.
Mm-hmm.
We just all got together and said, "Hey, look, let's go through the city." At that time, it was $1,000 a piece, and we paved our street.
Right.
We've done a lot of
And
assessment
special
districts.
districts is another way to go, I think, in some neighborhoods. That would make sense, but people don't know how to do it, so they just don't.
Yeah, I looked at that years ago, and one that did that years ago was in the Clear Lake Park area, and they formed a district
great
out there,
roads.
but it went upside down, because of the vacant lots and everything else. It
Right.
came really close to going upside down. It finally came out, and it's all paid off now and stuff, but they need to be redone again. And the trouble is the sales tax was set years ago, or not the sales tax, but the gas tax was set years ago at a certain rate. That's when we were getting 12 miles to the gallon, and it was $1 a gallon.
Right.
Now that it's $4 a gallon or thereabouts, and we're getting 30 miles a gallon, our gas tax per capita has gone downhill.
But 60% of
But
that
how-
money goes to pay salaries for the city of Clear
Yeah.
Lake. So
Well,
to
you-
me, they're not using the money there the way they're supposed to, or the way they're promised.
But how can you not use it for salaries when you have to have somebody patching the holes?
Well, no.
But
We're
they're
talking
not
about
doing
admin
that.
salaries, not
Yeah.
direct labor.
Oh, okay.
If you look at their budget closely, over
We've analyzed
62% of the gas tax revenues go strictly to admin.
Okay, that's the type of thing that really needs to be talked to.
We have
my
we,
two opponents.
We we have.
Yeah,
and we've talked to
trust
all
me.
the council people about that, and all we get is a blank stare because none of them understand economics very well.
well,
Yeah,
and-
it's the city manager particularly has a very limited understanding on how to utilize the funds that she has to begin with in a smart way.
Yeah, we're off subject here a bit,
Yeah,
but let me
we
tell you
can
what
get
they
on the
said.
phones, too.
Okay, what they said was, well, how else are we supposed to pay our salaries?
Yeah, and you have
Well,
to create revenue.
That's not-
I mean,
that's not an answer
a
to the
city's
public.
job to do that. So
sitting on the City of Clear Lake for 2 years, council, and looking to see what it was then and what it is now, they don't have enough staff.
that's true.
It takes more staff to really be able to get caught up in everything else, because I know everybody in that department. I'm in there once a week or whatever. Everybody there's working their tail off, and it's not like the city's getting, or the employees, or even the city administrator, if you look at a whole, statewide.
Actually,
is
I have.
getting, well, is
Yeah,
getting
actually, we have the numbers, and they are actually getting paid per capita based on population of the city a lot more than
but you
other cities this size.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's a small city or a large city. That doesn't make the salaries go up and down. I mean, how can it? Because there's competing.
But they still get
there's
step
competing-
salaries. They might not be getting raises, but they're getting step salaries every year, and there is increases, and
Plus
they
her
could
increase
freeze those. They could redo their health insurance based on the Affordable Care Act. There's a lot of things they could be doing to cut the fat within the budget that would allow for code enforcement salaries, that would also offset other expenses to allow the gas tax to pay for tax
And that's
things.
something you really need to discuss
We
with
have.
the city
We have,
council
and we
people.
get-
We
Yes,
have
we have.
multiple times.
But there's nothing.
It's on video.
Nothing I can really do about that. That's
Right.
up to the city
All right,
council.
let's
Right,
go on.
so let's
Move
move
on.
on to the phones. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi. I hope I'm speaking. I guess there's other people waiting. Okay, I'm for voting all these incumbents out. He kind of stated that he's pro Rob Brown, and the key word was he likes him. And if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, that's what we've had. And I want to put that emphasis on like. And voting all these incumbents out because his language, like you were talking there, but this is blank language. It's going nowhere. You've addressed a lot of these situations.
Right. Okay.
Now, volunteers are really, the definition is that they're not paid in the legal law, encyclopedia that I've been reading. But yet we have paid volunteers. So when you have volunteers, you might want to question,
Who are the
they
paid
being
volunteers? Who are the paid volunteers? I'm curious.
Well, up on Mount Canocti at the park was one of the issues that I addressed. And I found out that there's quite a few volunteers that they have a system where that these people are paid. And to me, it's almost like what we're being exposed to with the IRS right now, that the employees were getting extra bonuses, cash under the table, etc. So we got a bigger problem in the government. It starts right here. Vote all incumbents out.
Okay, thank you, sir. Have a good day. Hello, you're on the air.
Yes, I have some questions for Mr. Smith. Take him off the air.
Okie doke. Let him respond to that last caller real
Yes.
quickly, if you wouldn't mind.
Do you have a
Do you have
response?
anything to say to that?
I appreciate everybody's opinion.
Yeah.
And because he makes that opinion doesn't mean I'm going to dislike the person. So I like everybody I meet.
Right.
Until they give me do something
Reason
to
not.
me personally.
Right.
To not like him anymore. He has every right to his opinion.
Right.
And I respect that opinion.
But do you know anything about volunteers that are getting stipends or getting paid in any way
No,
under
I have
the table?
no idea. I have no idea.
Interesting.
They're not a volunteer if they're getting.
Is there anybody
Exactly.
on?
They'd be an extra help employee if they're getting paid.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. Okay, my dear, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Smith, I'll take this off the air. So I don't know if you want to write these down. You've been in office. This is your four-time incumbent, and you have not had any endorsements from any environmental group, unions, or political parties. And your district, what have you done to improve in the last 4 years as a result of the county? And you promised to bring back the dispensary issue, and that hasn't happened. And the issue of the waste of the money on the vector control back to the Board of Supervisors like you promised last year. And I'll take my answers off the air. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dispensary issue right now is on Rick Coel's desk. I expect to see that back in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, that's
Or
good.
the
Bringing
next
them
month,
back.
or to discuss, what
Bringing
we've come
them
up
back,
with.
yeah.
Right.
Now, is that going to be based on what happens in June, or is that just something you're going to go forward
Well,
with?
that's
Anyway.
something that Denise and I talked about requesting when we
Yes.
implemented this ordinance.
Right, I remember that,
And
yeah.
that it takes some time for him to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just talked to Denise yesterday morning about it, and she said it's Rick's bringing it back to us.
Okay,
I
cool.
don't know if it's a couple of weeks out or a month out, or
Right.
it's
Well, at least
short.
it's good to know
short
it's in
term.
motion.
Well,
Right.
here just to kind of put a perspective on it. Measure N would effectively outlaw all outdoor growing in pretty much 80% of the county. Do you think that's fair? Number one.
Like I said when the first vote came up, I wanted to get more information before we
Right,
you know,
I remember
voted
you-
again, and it was
Yes.
a 3 to 1 to 1. I voted no, and Denise abstained at the time.
Right.
It was brought back. Some of the information I wanted was brought back through county council.
Right.
And then I voted in favor of it, but I still wanted to see changes. To me, it was not what I wanted to see.
Okay.
I voted against, I don't know if you remember or not, but I voted against disbanding the committee that was so close to having,
Yes.
I agree.
having an answer.
I know.
So, you know, that's...
This whole thing has just been really like a bunch of spoiled school kids, and everybody has their little tantrums, and the people are the ones suffering.
And
So
then-
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I agree with you that it needs work. Are you aware of the new initiative that's going to be placed on hopefully on the ballot in November?
I'm aware of it. I have an email from a gentleman, I can't remember his name.
Daniel McLean, probably, or Michael Horner. Or
No, it's not Michael. I know Michael.
Dan.
Anyway, that wants to
Okay.
discuss that with me.
Good. I think
And-
that you may be actually pleasantly surprised. I feel it addresses everything that N addressed, but without the severe restrictions. The minimum plants are 4 plants in the small acreage, I think up to a half an acre, and then after that they go to 6, and then it caps at 48.
See,
And it includes a fee system for collective growth, so there's actually funding to enforce it as well.
And my biggest deal over that is the effect on their neighbors.
And it should be,
You know-
it's complaint driven, so
Right.
if this is a problem, then they have to adjust it.
See, and then, you know, Ron Green brought up, well, I don't like the smell of a barbecue.
Right.
Well, and what I would do is if, you know, my neighbor complained about my barbecue, I'd say, what can I do? Can I move it to the other side of my property from you? Because if it, I don't want
Right.
to, I don't want to upset somebody.
But that's not
you know?
always possible in a small lot,
Right.
and that's why we have to be reasonable, but also be considerate. We lived in rural Arizona where the cow fields are right there. We couldn't sit on our backyard at certain times of the night because the air would blow it over. There was nothing because of Right to Farm that we could do to change that.
Right.
So, you know, everybody has an issue, and I think we just need to look at each other like neighbors instead of enemies and work together and try to put something that both patients and the neighbors can deal with.
Because, you know, really, the thing I hear the most is the people either, it makes them nauseous because of the smell. They can't go out and use their backyard. They're embarrassed when company comes over and, you know, they smell it, they close their, you know, if there wasn't any smell to it, I don't think you'd have the complaints at all.
Well, of course not.
You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
anyway, there's
And then
you gotta-
forcing it indoors just makes it more energy sucking and dangerous for fires. So that's not an answer either. Buying from dispensaries is expensive. They cost full retail. Most people can't afford that because it's not covered by insurance. So we do have to look at the big picture and try to
Yeah.
fit everyone into that, I believe.
And, you know, after 2.5 years of kicking that around, you know, I thought the committee was really going to come up with something because we had a nice variety of people that were on
It
there.
was a good working group.
And
yeah.
the thing about it is that the alternate deal is what the Supreme Court or the last High Court ruling was, that it could be banned completely.
It was in the
we-
state of California, yes.
Right, and we don't want to see that either because people do need it.
Let me get rid of that
ouch.
caller. Sorry.
And to get back to her other question real
Yeah,
quick,
go ahead.
vector control.
Yes.
We appoint, I believe it's 3 members to the board of vector control. Vector control put something in front of the voters, and it was passed. They have a large reserve right now.
Right.
I'm not sure what their plan is for that, and it was discussed by Phil Murphy that
Yep.
he wanted
That's
to see
right.
it come back on the board and
Because
everything
he
else.
believes the quagga and the cyanobacteria could also be considered as vectors.
No, we checked into that, and it couldn't be.
Hmm.
And, you know, I really like Phil. Phil's controversial, but you know what? He brings up some really
He's a
good points
guy.
He's
sometimes.
very brilliant. We love
So,
him.
and I hope somebody doesn't hold that against me because I like Phil too. But anyway,
like
the thing about it is that they have their board, and you know, Phil called in the other day and said, you know, well, why don't you just kick those 3 people off the board until you find people who are going to change? I'm not going to go around and start kicking people off the board if I disagree with what their position is and stuff, because I tell you what, when you have opposing positions, you make better decisions.
Yeah, and don't you think, though, in response to that, an analysis of the department would be in order to try to figure out where's the best way they could utilize this funding? If it's not being used, why are they having it? Why not allocate it somewhere else where it could be better used? So
See, the thing
there's
about
a
it
lot
is
to it.
that would be like it was passed by the voters for them to collect it. That would be like the road tax passing in Clear Lake on a special tax, and we go and go, you know what, they've got some extra funds. Let's reallocate that. Absolutely not.
Okay.
It was approved by the voters. It's in there for the reasons, so.
Okay, back to the phones again. Hello, you're on the air. Hello? Okay.
Yes,
I'm
no?
on the wrong line. Nope, that one's gone too. Okay, phone caller, you're on the air.
Yes, this is Tippy Joe Fernandez from Upper Lake.
Hey,
bud.
boss, how
Hey,
are you?
Joe.
How are you?
Anyway, I'm just calling. I'm glad to hear Jeff Smith. Jeff, I like a lot of the things that you have answered. That Lake County needs to change. You're willing. It seems like you're just one of the board supervisors that's always more willing to work with the people, and I really appreciate that, because it is the people that's important. Not that the board supervisor isn't important, but
You're breaking up,
sound
Joe.
more humanitarian than most people. Yeah.
Well,
But I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the work you have done.
Oh,
And I'm
thank
glad
you.
that you're looking at medical marijuana and the dispensaries at a different, with a different attitude. And I just think the board, because that is who they support. So I do want to thank you for being one of our supervisors, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Joe. And I really appreciate the things you do in Upper Lake and stuff too. And I've heard a lot of stories about out there with a boot collecting money and everything else. And it's people like you that make everything worthwhile.
Yep, he's
And
awesome.
because I appreciate the people that our county, and I know that a lot don't have an easy job.
You're breaking up,
That
my
if
sweet.
somebody agrees with, as long as they're not personally attacking you or something to harm you, it's all right to agree to disagree, and I like that attitude. And so, like I said, I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for being one of our supervisors.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. We'll talk
You
to you
guys all have a
soon.
blessed day. Bye.
You
Thanks,
too.
Joe.
Bye-bye.
He must be chasing cows again.
Hello, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Actually, two things: a comment and then a question, which I'll take my answer on the air. Supervisor Smith, you made a comment regarding Rob Brown's actions that you, as the board, don't have any ability to address that, and I would respectfully request that you talk to your legal counsel about something called under the power of authority and abuse of that. The rest of the board does have the capability of censuring one of your own for inappropriate actions. In terms of my question, you sat on the Board of Supervisors back in 2002 when the board requested of Mr. Chesborough, the representative in California Assembly, to change the flood control district into the watershed protection district for the purposes of complying with the number of legal requirements that the county was facing having to do with the lake. And that piece of legislation went into effect in 2005, and that empowered the watershed protection district to both levy taxes and fees. And essentially, the Board of Supervisors / the Board of Directors of the Watershed Protection District haven't done anything in that vein in going on 9 years now, with the exception of the attempt to pass Measure E and now Measure L. And I'd like an explanation of why y'all haven't been a little bit more Johnny on the spot to get that done. And like I said, I'll take my answer on the air.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we've been trying to buy out the properties and stuff in the Middle Creek Marsh in that area for the project. And there was actually, we turned over some of the powers back to the state as far as maintenance of levees and stuff like that, and it wasn't cost effective, and some of the property owners, were going to have to pay an exorbitant amount to keep that area up. And it's one of those things where you look at it in the big picture and say, what's down the line? Are we going to be spending lots of money to try to fix something that really is not fixable, not feasible to deal with it anymore? So it's always been there, kind of in the background, and really making the decisions of exactly what we're going to do with that. And I think you're probably a lot more familiar with how that completely reads than I am at this point. And I applaud you for that. So, I'd like to know what your suggestion is. I'm always open to listen and to see what people have to say, especially, Mike, you and Betsy are really have studied up on a lot of these issues, the lake issues and everything else. And, it's great that you guys are so involved.
Cool.
So, I'd like your suggestions.
The caller is a very knowledgeable individual, I believe, in regards to this, more than I'll ever believe. So, we're getting close to time, but I have one question. I hate to bring this up because I know I'm in the minority on this issue, and I have my reasons for that. Is that Measure L? I'm going to assume you were for the sales tax increase.
Yes.
Yes? Fair enough. Okay. My concerns, and I've addressed this several times on the radio, are one is I believe the request for the half cent is too much. I believe it should have been a quarter cent based on my conversation with staff and other people involved that are a lot more knowledgeable than I am about the lake and what needs to be done. I think we're all in agreement the lake needs help. We have to do that. That's not the issue at hand here. But I think the half cent increase is too much money. And more importantly, though, besides the allocation of the funds and the way it's going to be done, is the oversight committee again. When we had Scott DeLeon on the radio months and months ago, before the measure was finalized, he agreed that the oversight committee language was not right. It was not fair. That's my words, not his. And he went back and spoke to council, and they made some adjustments to it. And I looked at it, and I still am not comfortable with that. Matter of fact, the Yes for Measure L propaganda or marketing that comes out is basically saying that there's going to be an absolutely guaranteed independent audit on the funds, which is not true because the language in the measure stipulates that it's up to the, what do you call it here in this county, comptroller?
Oh, the auditor control.
Yeah, thank you. Has the right to do it internally or externally. So it's not an independent audit per se. So that's very misleading. Number two, the oversight committee really is still going to be a majority from the select special groups interest and not from necessarily the basic community representatives. So I feel I have a problem with that. Yes, I agree with one come from Clear Lake, one from Lakeport, et cetera, et cetera. But when we start getting special interest groups, I know, I'm rambling. Go ahead.
We're out of time. So we have one more caller I'd like to throw in here, and then we're going to have to call it the end of the day. At least for you, Jeff. Sorry to say. Okay, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hey.
There he is.
Something I need to clear up about the question with vector control. The reason I asked that the board bring its functions before the board and examine them was not regarding the assessment money. It was regarding the basic core functions of that agency, which has an operating budget of around $1.5 million a year, plus they get another $500,000 or so from the assessment. Now, both Lowell Grant and I, we're both former directors of that agency, so we have a pretty good understanding of what the operations actually cost to do control services, the actual spraying. And we figured that could be done for around $500,000 a year. The other $1 million is either wasted or it's spent doing research primarily on the behalf of large pesticide manufacturers, some of which aren't even based in America.
Okay, Phil, we're out of time. I'm sorry, but we have to wind it up.
Okay, well, I want to see a re-examination of the core functions of that agency. I want someone to make an argument as to why a small, rural, impoverished community should be subsidizing the research and development costs of huge pesticide corporations, and why couldn't we use that $1 million a year that is not restricted to control the quagga and the cyanobacteria, both of which qualify as vectors under the California Health and Safety Code definition of vectors.
Okay, so
Thanks, Phil. Let him answer that now.
Just-
Thank
I'm
you.
going to take you off the air. Thank you.
Just, real quick, part of it being the fact that, I'm not sure, unless it was here in front of me to see exactly how that read as far as when they started collecting the new assessment. There could have been a maintenance of effort that they can't touch for uses with other things, and that's the way you mostly set up things like that, is because what they'll do is all of a sudden you'll raise money over here and go, good, we can use this money for anything we want to. They set the base money as money that still has to be used for the things it was intended for, and then you get this extra money. Otherwise, people would be doing that all the time. You say, okay, yeah, we need this money, we need it really bad and everything else, and you've sold it to the public's voted on it, and now your original $500,000 or $1 million, whatever it may be, they start squandering that everywhere else because they have all this other money that they have now. So
Right.
I'm sure that's part of the reason that,
But it might be worth doing an analysis anyway, just to see really what the rules are and what may be able to get gleaned from there to be put in towards other agencies or towards Quagga-Mussel or towards the lake. I think that would make sense.
yeah, well, if it's a vector, that's I guess the whole find out what the definition really of a vector,
Right.
to see what it is. And
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but
Yeah.
we will invite you back if you get through the primary, and you can come back again and expand, because I know there was a couple questions we still didn't get answered. And I thank everyone who called in, and I thank you, Jeff, for coming in. We really appreciate your time, and hopefully it hasn't been too painful.
well, I appreciate you inviting me. And actually, it's never painful.
Ah, great. Well, we love
shucks.
you. You've been one of the people that we've known almost as long as I've been here the last 5 years from the very beginning. So I really appreciate what you do and look forward to see how everything turns out as you guys duke it out for the final countdown.
I'm just really looking forward to a debate somewhere. Actually, I think there's one May 1st.
There is,
at the
and we're
college,
going to be,
so-
I think, live broadcasting it, and also possibly on KPFC as well as on the web. So we'll keep
Great.
everybody informed.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
I'm looking forward to
It'll
it.
be
Cool.
great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Jeff.
Have a good day. And coming up next, we have Jim Brown, candidate for District 3, and we'll be back in a few minutes. You're listening to Lake County Magazine on KPFZ 88.1 FM in Lakeport and all around the lake, and you're with Pete and Terry. We'll be back in a few.